Oakridge Boys.
And this is our brand new album, 17th Avenue Revival. We're excited about it. We recorded it at the legendary RCA Studio A, and it was produced by
Dave Cobb.
Hey, Cracker Barrel is our exclusive retail partner for the vinyl edition of the 17th Avenue Revival, although you can get the CD copies at all Cracker Barrel Old Country Store locations and online at shop.crackerbarrel.
Joe Bonsall from the Oakridge Boys. We are backstage at the Grand Ole Opry in dressing room number 1.
Yeah, this is the old Roy Acuff dressing room, they call it.
Okay.
So we see pictures of Roy, I think, all over the place. Yeah.
Is there a single dressing room that you think you probably have not reserved at some point over the many times you've played at the Opry?
I'll tell you now, over all of this time, now since we've been members of the Opry in 2000, was it 14?
I think 11.
11? Mm-hmm. That's right. Jeez. Time goes by fast.
Yeah.
But we usually are in here. They usually put the 4 of us in here in our band. I think they're next door.
Okay.
And but over all of these years, I think we've been in most all of them, or tape TV or something.
Right.
All of these historic dressing rooms.
Yeah.
Each one has a story, you know. So.
Certainly.
But this is the prestigious one. This is the Roy Acuff.
Yes. Hence number 1.
Hence.
So you are the tenor of the group.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And I interviewed, like I said, Richard, who's the bass singer.
Unmistakably the bass singer.
Unmistakably the bass singer. I'll never forget the first syllable from when I answered the phone, and I was like, that's got to be him.
Yeah, and the funny thing about Richard, like when he calls you, when he calls one of us even, hello, this is Richard. I know it's Richard. How could you not know that voice?
He could say it in Chinese, and you know exactly who it's going to be.
But yeah, I sing the high part.
Yeah.
Or what's left.
Well, so, I interviewed Rick Springfield shortly before interviewing Richard, and 1981, I was not born yet, but looking back on it, it was such an interesting year for the pop charts because you had Jesse's Girl, you had Betty Davis Eyes, you had
Celebrate Good Times Come On.
Celebrate Good Times Come On. You had the Pointer Sisters doing Slow Hand. Lady,
by Kenny, and I Love a Rainy Night by Eddie Rabbitt.
Absolutely.
It was quite a year,
It was quite a year.
It really was. And of course, Elvira was a big record that year.
Yes, and that was just about what I was going to say. You guys had this, you had tons of country hits. Right. You had topped the country charts many times by then. And Dwayne is typically the lead singer. Mm-hmm. But on this one, you got the lead, and it became this massive crossover pop hit.
It's crazy.
So what was that like for you to have a song that you sang lead on suddenly be the one where...
Well, I didn't really think too much about that, to be honest. Because I've sang lead on other songs, not the hits up to that point. Mm-hmm. Dwayne's voice usually carried the hits. I think Golden carried I Wish You Could Have Turned My Head and Trying to Love Two Women before 1981. And I'm trying to think, I don't think I had... Now, Dwayne sang the lead on most of those songs from 77 to 81. Mm-hmm. And when Don Gant, a music song plugger for Acuff Rose, came to our sessions, we were working on the Fancy Free album, and we were just about finished. And he said, man, I just heard a bar band in Texas do Rodney Crowell's version of Elvira, written by Dallas Frazier. He said, the whole time I was listening to this group sing, I thought, my gosh, the Oakridge Boys could nail this to the wall, man. Richard could do the Oom Papa Mau Maus. It could just be incredible, really different than the way anybody else had done it. And Chancey, our producer, said, sure, well, let's give it a try, he said, So we get in the studio with the musicians, and we sang through it a couple of times. The idea was for me to do the verses. And I never did it like the old Elvira's. I kind of did my own take, which, looking back on it, was a good idea.
Yes.
And most of the groups back then, even Kenny Rogers in the first edition, they had a weird kind of minor key Elvira on an album. It wasn't a single, but
I have to check that out.
Elvira. It was weird.
It sounds
but Rodney...
I welcome you guys back on here. If you not consider subscribing, liking, and also share this video. Now we are seeing the very devastating news coming in from Hendersonville, Tennessee. The popular country music singer, that is Joseph Bonsall, a 76-year-old, actually passed on to glory on July 9th, 2024 from complications from amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. He leaves behind his presence precious wife Mary Ann, daughters Jennifer Jennifer and Sabrina, and so many granddaughters, close to 8, Breanne, Luke, and so many other great grandsons. You know, a 50-year-old member of the American music group that is the Oak Ridge Boys, Joe was a member of the Grand Ole Opry and inducted into the Philadelphia Music Hall of Fame, the vocal group, and of course he's been one of those celebrated names within rock and roll, within country music, a hugely multi-talented man. Joseph was, by the way, an author of 11 books, including his latest, the memoir entitled I See Myself, which actually was released just last year in November. His family have come out to release this statement saying that they are requesting for privacy. We all know this is a man who actually was part of the Oak Ridge Boys, you know, and he spent close to 50 years. By the way, just around January, he had retired officially, having suffered with health ailments. But now, seeing him, you know, passing away is really very devastating. He joined the legendary group that was in 1973, and of course, before they emerged into the country music scene, where they eventually spawned dozens of hits, the likes of American Made and so many others. So in this moment in time, we are still sending our prayers, messages of sympathies to the family, friends, and everyone who was close to Joe Bonsall. Rest in power, the King, Joe Bonsall.